Welcome, Snoozy fam, to another Frightmare Friday, where we scour the internet to find some of the most terrifying nightmares people have had. You won't want to miss today's episode. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content on dreams, nightmares, and all things sleep. Today's story is inspired by an anonymous user. Now, let the dreams begin. I don't think I've had a dream that was more disturbing to me than this one. It was definitely the most horrifying experience I've ever had in a dream. I started out at a park and it was late at night and the sky was pitch black. The moon was the only source of light. In the distance, by the black fence, I distinctly recall seeing a blonde-haired man with a powerful build. He had a metal cleaver in his right hand and was slicing away at human bodies. I don't know how long I was there, but I don't think it was more than a few minutes. I can't say for certain what it was about this gory scene that made me so terrified, but I do remember feeling incredibly uncomfortable. After what felt like 3 or 4 minutes of watching this man cut up human parts into an unrecognizable state, a bus came by the area where the man was cutting up the body, and a police officer rushed out of the bus and seized him. After seeing him get on the bus, I immediately felt a sense of relief as the bus zoomed off into the distance. I decided to continue walking in that direction to the bus stop. Once I reached the bus stop, I sat down on a wooden bench and waited for the bus. Not more than 2 minutes later, the bus arrived. And when the bus door opened, I was shocked to see the same murderous blonde-haired man on the bus. He grabbed me by the shoulder and pulled me onto the bus with his immense strength. When I looked down towards the bus, I see that all of the areas that used to be occupied by chairs have been completely emptied out. The only thing on the bus was a single metal bar hanging on the ceiling that extends all the way from one end of the bus to the other. Then, something in the corner of my eye caught my attention. It was the same police officer from before, but he was lying on the floor with his ankles bound in chains and his organs and intestines pulled out from his stomach. I thought that this police officer must be dead, until the officer turned his bloody head towards me and glared straight into my eyes. He spoke with a weak and airy whisper. "Help me! Please, help me!" The officer lifted his arm, trying to reach out to me, when suddenly the blonde-haired man swung his rusty axe straight into the officer's skull, killing him instantly. The loud bang crushing the skull shook me to my core. My body froze in terror. I could not move even if I tried. The blonde man turned towards me and said, "I had to do it." Then he starts the bus and drives through the park. After a short while, I looked up and noticed something dangling from a tree. Upon closer inspection, I realized that it's a dead body. The body was ripped in half, with the organs expelling from the midsection. The body was hung on a tree with metal chains by the ankles. At this time, it dawned on me that the blonde-haired man would kill me next. I was about to be his next victim. I yelled at him and called him a killer, but he did not respond, and instead, he stepped harder on the gas pedal, accelerating the bus. I started screaming and crying because I was sure that I was about to die. As he rampages through the park, I noticed that there were more and more dead bodies hanging from the trees. Some of the bodies hung together in a row, with blood and guts all over the place. At this very moment, he was driving so fast that even if I didn't die by his rusty axe, I would die from the bus crash. In the distance, there was a chain that stretched between 2 trees in a fashion similar to that of a dangling hammock. It was difficult to see it because it was so dark, but the blonde-haired man drove straight into the stretched-out chain. The chain cuts cleanly through the bus and beheads the blonde-haired man. His severed head crashed onto the ground and tumbled towards where I was standing. Staring at the head next to my feet, I decided to take his head with me in a cotton sack. I am still not entirely sure how I managed to avoid being killed by this deadly chain. I got off the bus and started crying as I ran home while the blood from the severed head leaked through the cotton sack I was carrying. When I got home, I immediately tossed the blood-soaked sack onto the ground and walked to my room. I just need to get away from everything and try to put everything together of what just happened. But then I remembered that if anyone saw me with that severed head, they might assume that I was responsible for all the dead people at the park. I was scared that they would accuse me for the murders that I did not commit. I need to discard this head somewhere, or at least hide it somewhere where no one would ever find it, I thought to myself. When I got back to the living room where I had thrown the severed head, there was a knocking coming from the front door. My anxiety level skyrocketed. I could feel the blood rush to my head. Was this the police? How did they even get here so fast? After taking a couple of seconds to calm myself down, I proceeded with great anxiousness towards the front door. I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke in a trembling voice. "Who is it?" The person at the door did not respond, and I began to wonder if perhaps I spoke a little too softly. I took a deep breath and repeated a little louder this time. "Who is this?" However, there was still no answer. Instead, the knocking became louder and at a faster pace. I started to feel a great deal of anxiety, and my mind started racing with all sorts of different scenarios. Is it the police officer? Could it be my neighbor? Is there another murderer on the loose? I felt like I might go insane, and it felt like my heart was going to leap out of my throat. Thankfully, the knocking stopped. But after releasing a huge sigh of relief, I turned towards the living room, and what I saw when I turned around sent shivers down my entire body. I could not speak, and I could barely breathe from the terror that stood in front of me. Standing in front of me was the severed body of the blonde-haired man. The head was lying on the ground as the body crouched down to pick it up. The hands gripped the head firmly and pressed it down on the severed neck, producing a crunching and cracking sound as the head and body reunited. After it was finished, the blonde-haired man looked directly at me and said in a very raspy voice, "You do know that it's not good to steal other people's heads without permission, don't you?" After that, he gave a very vile grin. When I saw this, the only thought running through my head was, what on earth did I just witness? Still frozen in shock, the blonde-haired man pulled out the same rusty axe and starts running towards me at full speed and yelling in a rumbling deep tone. I screamed as loud as I could, and then I fell unconscious. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat on my bed. I was breathing heavily, desperately trying to catch my breath. That was the worst nightmare of my life. The entire thing felt so real. Every now and then, I could still hear that crunching and crumbling sound of the head reattaching to the body. It still sends shivers down my spine. What's the most horrific nightmare you've had? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and click on that notification bell for more amazing content like this. Share this with a friend if you think they may need a little wake-up call. Thanks for watching, and until next time, sleep well.